Apple's been hit with a nearly $2 billion fine by the European Union for breaking its competition laws. The EU says the tech giant prioritized its own music streaming service over others. Rival app Spotify had complained Apple put it at a disadvantage by not letting it tell iPhone customers about subscription deals. This is the first ever penalty against Apple levied by the EU. Carmi Levy joins me now. He's CTV's tech analyst. Carmi, good morning. Good to see you. So, first of all, can we talk about the size of this fine? $2 billion. What do you make of it, and what exactly is Apple in trouble for?
Well, it certainly looks like a huge number to you and me and all of our viewers, and it certainly is designed to send a message to Apple, not that they're going to worry they're sitting on hundred billions of dollars in cash, but as the first major fine using this new Digital Markets Act legislation, it's designed to send a message to Apple that this legislation, these new laws are serious. Your behavior contravenes those laws. You're out of compliance, and you're gonna get fined now, but it could get even worse if you continue. The provisions include fines up to 10% of global revenues, as well as up to 20% if they fail to comply again within 8 years. So, essentially, it's the first shot by the EU to say that the winds are changing, and big tech's sort of feeling that they can get away with stuff like this, it's coming to an end.
And Apple likely will appeal this. But what exactly did they do in this case, or not do?
This started with a complaint from Spotify, which essentially said that, if you want to have Spotify on your iPhone, there's only one way, or iPad, there's only one way to get it. You have to go through the App Store. You can't sideload it or download it from the web. You have to go through Apple's process. That's why they call Apple kind of a gatekeeper, because they determine the rules. And of course, that makes all apps that are provisioned within Apple's App Store, are subject to Apple takes a 30% cut of pretty much everything, including the subscription revenues that are generated within that app. Spotify complained, tried working around it. Apple refused, and Spotify launched the complaint. And so I think it really does beg the question: if Apple builds the playgrounds, are they allowed to determine these rules, even if they are onerous, or does it leave consumers in a position where they just don't have a choice? If you have an iPhone, it's not like you can go anywhere else. And so that's what the European Union is saying is, yeah, you built the playground, but that playground is now dominant. It looks like a monopoly. This violates antitrust law. Something's got to change.
Do you see more turbulent waters ahead for Apple?
Oh, absolutely. Apple is saying that, they are competitive. They have, they've made changes to the structure. They're opening things up in the advance of the Digital Markets Act taking effect. But this is really, it's a showdown between big tech and big government. And big tech has kind of been allowed to make the rules for years. And now big government is saying, no, that's going to change. And so you don't expect Apple to take this sitting down in much the same way that Google is also potentially on the receiving end of it, because they have the other dominant platform, and they also will be subject to additional legislative action in the months to come. So it really is kind of it's coming to a head between governments and tech, and it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, because no one seems to be willing to give an inch.
If Apple, Carmi, does end up having to pay the $2 billion, is that awarded to Spotify?
Not clear. I think, no, I don't. Spotify didn't sue Apple directly. This is
Gotcha.
a fine under the legislation, but it certainly sets a precedent for Spotify to maybe, launch another lawsuit directly at Apple. It gives them a lot more power to fight this David versus Goliath kind of battle that they've been fighting for years. And so it'll be fascinating to see where it goes if, in fact, it does stick. You said it before, and I agree. I expect them to appeal. I expect them to fight this with everything they've got. This isn't a done deal, and it will continue to work its way through the courts for years to come.
Carmi, thanks so much. Glad you could be with us this morning.